उसमें जगह कहाँ रहेगी?
Rahul Eswar, do you
तो
want to come
इसके
into?
लिए
Do you want to come in there? Do you really think it's going to open a Pandora's box? I think even if it does open a Pandora's box, it's a valid case in this country to make a case for interreligious studies. That's not a subject that exists in a country like India, which is a hub of so many religions, ethos, and different kinds of cultures.
There won't be any issues of Pandora's box because every faith is a wisdom box. And when we open those box, we will only get pearls of wisdom, understanding, insight, and intelligence. Let me point out what science says. Modern education says we have 9 types of intelligences, and one of the intelligence is existential intelligence. The Harvard psychologist Howard Gardner points this out, and we take this to teachers. So every person needs to have an existential intelligence, or we can roughly call it spiritual, ethical, cultural, moral, social, whichever name you want to call it, you can call that. So we need to have an orientation for students. And all the great texts from all the religions or ideas from all the religions can be taught in schools, because that is what our Vedas and that is what Rigveda says.
Rahul, let me make a point here, and I want to make a frank point here. The way Hinduism is different from a lot of other religions is that you can be an atheist and yet be a Hindu. You can just be spiritual. You can just be spiritual, practice yoga, not believe in idol worshipping, and still be a Hindu. You can just be interested in theology and philosophy and still be a Hindu. There's a huge part of Sanatan which is about theory and philosophy that distinguishes it from a lot of religions across the world. And in fact, the argument in the Supreme Court was that Hinduism is a culture. It's not really a religion. And that special knowledge and culture we have, why do we shy away from talking about it? I don't understand that.
Thank you for raising that question. That question is very pertinent. I know as normal, ordinary, pluralistic Indian, I believe such questions should be asked. And let me quote 2 court verdicts. One is Supreme Court verdict 1995, Brahmachari Siddheshwar Sai versus State of West Bengal, where Supreme Court themselves said Hinduism or Hindu is a way of life, a culture, rather than a dogmatic religion. Second, Allahabad High Court has once said Bhagavad Gita is not a religious book, but a book on religion or book on spirituality. So it is not sectarian, it is not divisive, it contains psychological, spiritual, sociological inputs. You can have different words. But the unfortunate reality in India is whenever we invoke something Indian, cultural, Hindu, Bharatiya, suddenly people will say it is all communal. See, the greatest secular icon, Mahatma Gandhi, always used to read Gita. He used to have Raghupati Raghava Rajaram, which even Muba is opposing this morning. So please remember, celebrating Indian culture is not communal. Let us learn from all the great faiths. Let us learn Bhagavad Gita.
Maulana Sahab, I'm coming to you. Would you agree that in many ways the teachings of Bhagavad Gita or the teachings coming from the Hindu religion are religion agnostic in many ways? These are spiritual learning, whether it's about yoga or various other sciences that have really come in. And if they want to be included in the school curriculums, which they should be, because they are the treasures and they are the cultural heritage of this country, I don't think the communalization debate should really come in. And if there are suggestions of including other texts, teachings from other good religions and good things that we can include for our children, all those suggestions should be welcome. Why open this bandwagon of communalization just because you're including something from Bhagavad Gita?
No, you are saying that the other religious books, texts have to be included into the educational curriculum. So where will be the space for other education, for technical education, learning of the technical education, science and math? We already.
But sir, this is already in the moral science. Na? This will only be in moral science. It's not going to be replacing science or mathematics or social sciences that you're going to study. Moral science, where you'll have one chapter on this. What's the big deal about it?
Madam, already our children are overburdened. They can't bear the huge weight on their shoulder of school bag. So we are adding some other book, some other textbook from Bhagavad Gita, from Quran, from Bible, from Surah, and some atheists will also come up to include their views as well. So what you will do? Where we will stop? ये सवाल है. इसका मतलब ये है कि हम एक नई झगड़ा शुरू करने जा रहे हैं.
सर, झगड़ा ढूंढेंगे तो हर बात पे मिल जाएगा, और अगर तय कर लेंगे कि झगड़ा नहीं करना है तो झगड़ा नहीं करेंगे. राहुल, you had a point to make. Go ahead.
Submission. In the largest Muslim nation in the world, that is Indonesia, where the largest number of Muslims are there, Ramana is one of their greatest celebration. Ram Muhammad is one of their most common names. They have Garuda Indonesia. They have Ganapati in their currency note. They have Bank Ganeshas because they feel it is a part of their culture. Our Indonesian Muslims proudly say, if we can go to their digital space, say we are Muslims by religion and we are Indians by culture. That Indic culture or the Dharmic culture is very much there. So please remember, Bhagavad Gita is not a communal text, but a cultural, socio-spiritual text. Similarly, Ramayana and the other texts. For example, if somebody is teaching yoga in schools, which the world is doing, the United Nations is celebrating, do we mean to say that we are communalizing schools? Such good elements from all cultures should be incorporated and should be celebrated. And Bhagavad Gita is a part of timeless heritage of India,
But
which is
Rahul,
celebrated.
here's the counter question and my last question to you as we end this debate. That the argument is that if you include Bhagavad Gita, there are sections within different religions which would say that why only pick Bhagavad Gita? There is heritage, there's culture, there's learning in Jainism, in Buddhism, in Islam, in Christianity, in different faiths that exist, tribal cultures of our country. Why are you only going to pick up one text? If you want to have a proper study around it, have a white paper, introduce proper courses, and the government should do proper due diligence before introducing something like this, not to forget that they're doing it before the elections.
I mean, elections is a different part. But as you rightly said, there should be due diligence. Don't you think we should celebrate Buddha? Buddha was the light of Asia. He gave the world. Or Mahavira, one of the ancient most prophets of the world. We should celebrate and including Jesus Christ or Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need wisdom from every side because our constitutional forefathers, including Mahatma Gandhi, and spiritual forefathers, including Vivekananda, celebrated every culture and said, we believe, or our secularism is inclusive of every faith, celebration of every faith. And it is a pride that Vivekananda, in Vivekananda's Belur Mat, Christmas is celebrated one of the best fashions. And his guru, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, celebrated every faith and tried to practice in steps so that he can understand. So this inclusive vision of spiritual pluralism is what we should think. And portions from Bhagavad Gita or any other text are welcome. As you said, there should be due diligence. There should not be politicizing. It should not be the sake of mere debate. But some cultural, spiritual, ethical orientation of our students is needed because existential intelligence is needed for our students. That's an accepted premise for educators world over. You can do it by so many other means.
We need interreligious studies in this country. I've always wondered, studying in the West, there were always Department of Interreligious Studies, but there's none in our country, very far and few. Maulana Sahab, I'm short of time, but I really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. बहुत shukriya aap hamare saath aaye. Rahul Eswar also joining us on the show. This debate will continue to go on. It's far from over. Moving on.